This conference will now be recorded.
Everyone, good morning. Hope you're able to see my screen. So, anyone join new today to this class, or like all of you are part of the demo session also? Okay, fine. Okay. So, from today onwards, we'll start with the course content. So today we will start with the basics of HTML. What's HTML and what is the use of it, and then those kind of things. We'll get started today. Okay. So, uh, so HTML stands for. So today is day two. Day two. So HTML stands for Hyper Text Markup Language. So it's a very simple thing to learn. It's not a programming language, rather it's a markup language. It's a markup language. It's like we put a marker. Like how do we highlight the elements? Let's say if we take any page, notebook or something like that. If you want to highlight something, then what we will do, we take a highlighter and then we highlight the page, right? Like by putting ink on the page, like that, we just mark the content using that highlighter. Similarly, HTML also, if you want to do something, we just put a marker from the beginning and the ending. If you put that marker, then it will behave like that. So like that it will work. That's why the name is markup language. We just mark the start and end points of the page where we see the style. That's why it is called as markup language. Okay, we will learn more about it in a while. Just give me like 5-10 minutes, then we will go in depth into hypertext markup language. Okay, so next thing is, so before we understand what is this markup language and what is the use of this markup language, we have to understand little bit basics on web fundamentals. Understand little bit basics on web fundamentals. What is a web? So what is web and how does that work? Those kind of things we have to concentrate on, and we have to understand a little bit more about that. Just give me a minute. I will just start working on those. Just give me a minute. Okay. So first we have to understand. First you have to understand about. First you have to understand about web fundamentals. First you have to understand about web fundamentals. What is web, and like what is web, and how does that web works? Those kind of fundamentals we need to understand. We need to understand a little bit more before we start understanding about HTML. Okay, so let's say if you enter google.com, if you enter google.com in your browser, if you enter google.com in your browser, what happens internally? If you enter google.com in the URL bar in your browser, what happens internally? Okay, you enter www.google.com or https://www.google.com. If you enter this URL in the browser, why you are seeing this screen, how you are seeing this screen, what is this screen all about? We'll understand that first. Okay, so whenever you enter, like let's say this is your browser, okay. So in your browser, Let's say you entered here google.com. Let's say not just google.com, any website like Facebook, any website, you enter here google.com in your browser. Let's say you enter here google.com in your browser. So once you enter google.com in your browser, the first step happens is browser will connect to browser will connect to something called as DNS. Browser will connect to something called as DNS, domain naming service. Domain naming service. So whenever you enter google.com and enter in your browser, the first step which happens internally is Google Chrome will connect to something called as DNS, or something called as DNS. So DNS stands for domain naming service. Domain naming service. So how does the browser knows this DNS? It will come with your internet provider. Like if you're using some internet provider, like let's say Airtel is one internet provider, like let's say Act is one internet provider, like that you will have some internet providers, right? Some internet providers, they will have that DNS configured. Like they'll have the DNS configured, so you don't need to worry. So the point is, whenever you enter google.com in your browser and you press enter, first the request will go to DNS. First the request will go to the first browser will connect to DNS. First browser will connect to DNS. What is DNS all about? DNS will have the mapping of google.com to something called as IP address. Okay, like in your phone you have name, right? Like you will have contacts app, you have the contacts app. So in the contacts app, what will be there? Let's say you want to call to you want to make a call to Balu. So then you search in your contacts app Balu, right? And then you will get a phone number for him. Directly remembering the phone number is a little difficult task, little tedious task, right? Rather than remembering the direct phone number, we will remember the name. And we search for the name in the phone book, and we'll get the number, right? And we'll get the number. Similarly, for every google.com or for every facebook.com or for every something.com, for every something.com or something.in, for every, these are called as domains. For every domain, there is some IP address. Similarly to the phone number, there is some IP address mapped. There is some IP address mapped. It is very difficult to directly remember IP address. That's why there is a name to it. So DNS will contain the mapping of the name with the IP address. Okay. So let's say google.com. We'll have this IP address, some 10 dot, some 123 dot, 142 dot, some 123, like that. There is some IP address. Similarly to google.com, similarly to the facebook.com, fb.com, and there is one IP address. Similarly, like it contains lot of entries. Okay, it is like a huge database of entries, huge database of entries. If you go in depth into this topic also, it will take good amount of time. It's on itself is a very difficult topic. It will take good amount of time. Okay, but let us start from here. Let us think that it contains huge amount of data. First, the request will go to the server. Request will go to the DNS, and from there the response will come. The response is the IP address of the google.com. First you send the request. First browser will send the request to the DNS, and DNS will respond back. With the IP address of the google.com. Let's say the IP address is like 10.10 something dot something. Okay, so the response will come. That will be the IP address. Of google.com. Okay. Now once browser has the IP address of google.com, what browser will do is, using the IP address, browser will connect to that location. Like similarly, if you have the number, right, you just type the number and you will figure out where the phone is present, right, and you'll be making a call to that phone. Similarly, once browser has the IP address, first browser search for the phone number in the contact list. That browser got the phone number. Like you can think that way. First, browser searched for the contact name in the DNS in the phone book, and then it got the IP address back. And then using the IP address, it will connect to the server. It will connect to the server. So this server is also nothing but a computer only, a sophisticated computer. It is also a computer. Computer is a little bit old word. It can also or a machine. So a machine. Like similarly, how we have laptop, this is also a machine. This is also a computer, or this is also a machine. Okay. Now what browser will do? Browser will connect to the server. Browser will connect to the server. Server means, that don't think that server means it's a some black box or something like that. Server is also nothing but your computer. It will also have a CPU. It will also have RAM. It will also have your hardware, like whatever the hardware you have, chipset. All these things will be also there for it. But the server is a little bit more sophisticated compared to your local computer. So server is more sophisticated because it has to do huge amount of work. It is a little bit more like good kind of things. Now browser will connect to the server using that IP address, and inside the server, inside the computer, there is a software running. Inside this also there is a software running. This is called as app server. This is called as app server or web server. This is called as app server or web server. Okay. So similarly, we have first we have browser, right? We have a browser, right? Browser is also running in one computer, right? Browser is not like hanging directly. You're not running the browser directly. Browser is also running in one computer. That computer can be your computer, or it can be a tablet, or it can be a mobile phone. So end of the day, it's a computer which will have some RAM and some some RAM and some CPU, right? Okay. So first you enter google.com in the URL. First it goes to the DNS, get back the IP address. Once it has the IP address ready, now Google, now browser will connect to this this server, and inside the server computer, there is another application running that is called as app server or web server. There is some difference between app server or web server. For now, ignore it. But some other software is running inside the server machine, that is your app server or web server, and the request will be taken by that app server or web server. It will process the request, and it will give the response, and it will give the response back to the browser, Okay. Once it has the IP address, Google like browser will make a request to the server. Server, don't think that it's a black box. Server is also a computer. Inside the server, there is another software running. Inside the computer, there is another software running. That is basically called as app server or web server, and that app server or web server will be taking your request, and will be processing the request, and will be giving the response back to the browser, Okay. Now what is that response? Response will be in the form of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Response will be in the form of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. Response will be in the form of HTML, CSS, JS means JavaScript, sir. JS means JavaScript. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. JavaScript files. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. Okay. So the response will be in the form of HTML and CSS JavaScript files. Your server will not execute any of this code. Server will just send the files back to browser. Whenever browser makes a request, based on some URL parameters or based on some URL things, your server will process the request, and the server will give the response back to the browser, and that response is in the form of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. Okay, this is just files. It will be returned to the browser. What browser does, it's a browser's headache, but server's job is just to respond and give the files back, give the files, these HTMLs and JavaScript files, just it will give the files back to the browser. Server will not execute any of this code. Server will not execute HTMLs and JavaScript code. Okay, server will just give the files back to the browser. Now what a browser will do is, browser will execute these three. Browser will execute this because once you make a request and then get the response, once response is came to the browser, browser has these files, HTML, CSS and JavaScript files. Now browser will execute these three files, these three code, HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and it will display the web page on the screen. It will display the web page on the screen, and it will display the web page on the screen. So display the web page on the screen. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript is executed by the browser. Is executed by the browser. Where it will execute? Whenever it has got the response from the server, based on the server's response, browser will execute that HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and then it will be displayed here on the browser, and then it will be displayed here on the browser. Okay. So first, whenever you enter google.com, request will be going to the phone book or DNS, and then response will come. That response will be an IP address. Next, what will happen? Browser will make a request to the server with the because it has the IP address with it. It will make a request to the server, and inside the server there is another software running called as app server or web server. That fellow will take the request. That fellow will process the request, and that fellow will give the response. That response will be always HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It cannot give you other responses. Like it can give other responses like PDFs and images like that, but right now that is not right now. Think that it can give you only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript as an output. It will give those three files to the browser. Now once browser has those files, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript of those files, and the browser will execute that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then it will display the web page on the screen, and then it will display the web page on the screen. If you want to look the HTML code of any browser, of any website, just right click on the page, and there is something called as view page source. There's something called as view page source. So there's something called as view page source. If you click on it, then you see this is all HTML code. Whatever you see, this is basically, this is JavaScript code. I think this is JavaScript code. Whatever you see, this is all the JavaScript code. So you don't need to write. It will not be this much tough. Basically, this is system generated. This is system generated because this is generated by the computer. That's why like a little bit difficult to read the code, but it is not this much hard. But yeah, but end of the day, that's what the response we have got. View page source. Similarly, we can also do it for every website. Like let's say, if I open flipkart.com, right click. So we can say, where is view page source? Right click, view page source. This is the HTML. This is the HTML. This is the JavaScript code and HTML. Like multiple things are there here. So, okay, any website you can see view page source. Any website you can see view page source, and you can see lot of HTML and JavaScript code comes out there. Okay, you can see there is a lot of HTML and JavaScript code comes out there. Okay. Okay. So you can see HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. Who will execute this code? Can anyone answer the question? Who will execute this HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code? Is it server or browser? Who will execute the code? Server or browser?
Browser.
Browser will execute the code. So browser is visible to the user, right? Browser is visible to the user. Browser will be seen by the user. Browser will be seen by the user. Okay. Browser will be seen by the user. So that's why this is called as front end. That's why this is called as front end. That's why this is called as front end. Means this is visible to the user. This is visible to the user. The code execution and the user can take care. Like user can see the code execution and all these things. That's why this is front end. This is front end. Whereas in the app server or the web server, whereas at this point in the app server or web server, at this point the code execution also will have. Here also there is a code execution happening. So that code execution you will not be able to see. That's why this is called as backend. That's why this is called as backend. That's why this is called as backend. That's why whatever the code executes here is called as backend. Whatever the code executes here is called as front end. Okay. Now one major point here which you need to remember. One major point which you need to remember. A lot of people in the initial days confused with JavaScript and Java. Arvind, JavaScript. Here also there is word Java, and here also there is word Java. Apart from that 4-character similarity, both are very much different. Not even a single point is same between JavaScript and Java. JavaScript is completely different. Java is completely different. JavaScript is executed in the browser. Java is executed in the backend, in the server side. Java is executed in the server side, backend. Java is executed in the backend. So yesterday when I asked this question also, Arvind, why it is called as backend? See, the code execution, where it is happening? The code execution is happening at the backend, at the server side, then it is backend. If the code execution happens in the front end, then that is front end. Then that is front end. Then that is front end. Okay. So JavaScript and Java both are very much different. Just those days somebody has done a mistake, and that mistake still continued. Okay, somebody named the language as JavaScript just to get some popularity. Like those days Java is very popular, so just to get the same popularity, that fellow named it as JavaScript. That fellow named this language also JavaScript. That's where the name has come, and that's where it has got started. JavaScript and Java, that's where it has got started. That's where it has got started. Okay, so other than that, JavaScript and Java are two completely different things and two completely different technologies altogether. But if you already know Java, JavaScript is a little bit simple for you. If you don't know also, it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Okay, we are not this course doesn't require any background on Java. If you know already, that's well and good. Otherwise, that's okay. That's not a big deal. Okay. So the code which executes here, it will be Java, or it will be .NET, or it will be like whatnot. Like lot of things. The code execution, lot of things happens here. This is called as backend, and the code which is executed in the browser, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, that is basically called as front end. That's basically called as front end. That is basically called as front end. Okay, and the response will be always in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript format. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript format. Okay, nowadays a lot of new responses come. Like nowadays there is responses like JSON, there is responses like PDF. Like a lot of responses will come. We'll see that little later in the course content. But for now, you can assume that only response it will give is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so if you want to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript by ourselves, okay, so we just need a browser. That's it. We just need a browser. Once you have the browser software in your machine, then you can just execute the code from there itself. Even like a lot of people executes in mobile also. That's also okay. That's not a big deal. You can also execute the HTML, CSS, JavaScript from mobile also, but it is a little bit difficult to execute from the mobile. But like I could see, like there are some people who will execute from mobile also, but it will be a little bit difficult for you to type the code and then to execute the code. But mostly you have to use laptop to execute the code. If you have the browser software readily available, then we can use the browser to test whatever we have learned, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We will execute that in the browser, and we will see the output. Like we will see the server setup and everything when we discuss. Once we come to JavaScript topic, then there we will see the server setup and everything. So now, if people talks about cloud, right? Let's say if you I told you, right, this is a computer or a machine. Right? If you rent this computer or machine from AWS, from Amazon, then it is a cloud. Then it is present in the cloud. If you rent this computer from Microsoft, then it is Azure. Then it is present in the cloud also. If you rent this computer from Google Cloud, GCP, Google Cloud, okay. GC, Google Cloud. So then it is from then this machine is from Google. Then this machine is from Google Cloud. It's in cloud. Okay. So with whom you rent it, just that is. Like some people in the internet will make fun. If the computer is from cloud, means it is sitting in the cloud. If it rains, then computer will get wet and then it will just lose its working and everything. It's not like that, sir. Cloud is just a what do you say, buzzword. It's just a buzzword, and then nothing else will be there. Nothing else is there. Just rather than renting the computer from your local vendor, you will rent it from that fellows. That's it. That is the only difference. Other than that, there is nothing. Like cloud means it will not sit in it will not sit in cloud, and then if it rains, then it will fall away. Those kind of things is not there. It's not true. Okay. So I'll just wait for any questions. If you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll move to the next topic. If you are difficulty in speaking in the by turning off the mic, you can also talk in chat. You can use the chat feature to ask any questions if you have. So JavaScript will take 3 weeks to learn. JavaScript will take 3 weeks. It will take 3 weeks. Java will take 3 years. Okay. So once you have completed your engineering, you go to Amirpet and you join in one of the big institutes in Amirpet. Okay. You go there, you join in one of the big institutes in Amirpet. Okay. First you start with core Java, right? First you start with core Java. First you start with core Java. Next you start with advanced Java. 6 months. 6 months. 1 year gone. By the time you complete these two, you have got 1 year. You have to put 1 year fake experience, right? So after completion of engineering, let's say you have joined in Amirpet for any core Java course content. First core Java 6 months, advanced Java 6 months. Next. See, initially, if you're searching for a job, core Java is enough, like initial days. But by the time you complete core Java, already you have got 6 months of experience. You have to be 6 months of fake. You have to complete advanced Java also, because that institute fellows will make sure that you take a package and then you will end up in learning both core Java and advanced Java. So once you have become 1 year experienced, core Java and advanced Java is not enough. You have to learn other technologies also. Then you will end up in learning Spring. Next, you'll end up in learning Hibernate. Okay, then you have to also along with this four, then you should also learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and a database. Okay, this is all you learn. You can do this parallelly along with this course, or you have to learn separately. Most of the people do it parallelly along with the course. That's okay. That's how it works. So that's why I'm not giving any time here. Once you complete this 6 months, you have become 1.5 year experience. Then you have become 1.5 year experience, and people will start selling you some other courses like design patterns. Okay, let's say it will take 2 months. So by the time you complete the last part, or let's say by the time you complete this Hibernate course, right? Let's say you are not taking this course. Let's say you're completing the Hibernate. It's 1.5 year of experience. Like you have become 1.5 year of experience. Once you are learning Hibernate, by the time you are learning Hibernate, you forget core Java, because it's almost 1.5 year now. Like in a batch, even within 15 days, people will forget the course content. People will forget what they have learned after 15 days, unless that the student is intelligent and the student is hardworking. From my analysis, from my like past eight years of analysis, as per my knowledge, by 15 days, if there is a weekend in between, within like 2 weekends are there in between, then people will forget the course in the first week, unless they revise and then they are studying. By the time you complete Hibernate, you'll forget core Java and you will again rejoin core Java, because you have forgotten already. You forgot already core Java, then you will rejoin core Java. Then by the time you complete core Java, you'll forget advanced Java, then Spring, then Hibernate. Then again it comes like this, and it comes like this, and it will go like this. It will come like this, and it will go like this, 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 like this. It will go, and they'll give you all of this for like 5,000 rupees. or let's say 10,000 rupees. Nowadays, like rates has been increased. By the time when I was there, it was 5,000. I think it will be 10 or 15 right now, I think. So like in their class will be like nearly 1,000 people will be there in the class. Okay, because the rate is cheap, right? Because the rates are cheap. A lot of people will try to join and then they will not be able to complete the course. Because the reason I told you, there is a lot of people who don't have consistency. A lot of people don't have the consistency. That is a major thing which is not there presently from the students. Like people who have consistency and the people who can complete the course, they can do it. Okay, it will take a lot of time. Like if I go in depth, it will take a lot of time. But don't do like that. Just sit there for 3 months. Don't wait to join next batch or something like that. Just there will be 3 months of time. Strictly sit there and then complete the course. So we'll complete our course in like not more than, like, for me it is 45 hours. So if you consider weekends and everything, it will be like 2 months at max. If there are no any absence or something like that, otherwise it will be like 2 months to 2 months, and like it will be 1 week ahead, or 2 months 1 week, or like that. It will go if I put any like holidays in between. Okay, clear. There is one message in chat. Can you explain about cloud, sir? So that's what I'm trying to tell you, na. Cloud is nothing but there is a computer. This is a computer. I told you, na. So there is server and there is this browser. Browser will send request to the server, and server will respond with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. Okay. If this computer is present, like this computer machine, if this is present in Amazon's data center, then it is part of AWS cloud. If it is present in Microsoft's data center, then it is part of Azure cloud. If this computer is present in like Google's data center, then it is part of Google cloud. Okay, just where this computer is present, based on that, like you will be it will be cloud. Cloud is nothing but you are renting a space from a vendor. Earlier we used to rent it from our own data center, but nowadays we are renting the space from a vendor. We're renting a space from vendor. You can think like this, sir. Cloud as a like, let's say there is a mall, right? Shopping mall. You can think cloud as a shopping mall where people can rent the shops, and then like they'll do their business. Okay, like that you can think. Actually, we rent the shops in a shopping mall, but in a cloud world, we just rent some machines there. We just rent some machines. We just do the business and give the machines back once it is done. So that's the major concept of cloud. That's the major concept of cloud. Okay. Okay. Any other questions until this point? Okay. Okay. We'll move to the next topic. For today's class. So today we will execute a basic HTML program. So today we will execute basic HTML program. Today we will execute what happened. Today we will execute a basic HTML program. So what we will do, we are going to execute. The next topic for today's class is we are going to execute. Basic HTML program. Basic HTML program. And that's what we're going to do today. Okay. HTML is pretty simple, sir. Even like students, 5th class, 4th class students also can learn. HTML is very simple, very basic HTML. Just you need to walk a little bit, like not even harder also. Just concentrate and then you will learn HTML. Very simple. Okay. So if you're planning to write HTML code, okay. HTML starts with if you are planning to write HTML code, HTML starts with HTML. Like if you want to write HTML code, HTML starts with, it's a markup language. I told you now we need to put a starting and ending tag. So we have to write open HTML tag. This is HTML. open HTML tag. This is a less than symbol and then greater than symbol. In between you have to write HTML, and you need to close the HTML. So if you put a slash here like this, then it is closing HTML. Then it is closing HTML. This is L, sir. This is L. So open HTML and then closing HTML. Open HTML and then closing HTML. Okay. So every tag will have open tag and then closing tag. It's a case insensitive, sir. You can write capital HTML also, capital HTML also, or small HTML also. That's okay. That's your wish. You can write any of those things, either capital HTML or small HTML. So now you see, for every human body there are two parts, no? Head and then body, right? For every human body there are two parts. If you take human body, then it will have two parts, head and then body. Okay. So here also for HTML also there are two parts. For HTML also there are two parts. There are two parts. Head open tag and then head closing tag. See the slash, sir. See the slash. So we will type. Once you type, you will understand what kind of slash it is. Head open tag and then head closing tag. Similarly, we'll have body open tag and then body closing tag. So whatever the code, HTML code we are going to write, we'll write the code in the body. We'll write the code in the body. Head is for some configuration related work. We will see what is the use of head little later in the course content. But for now, we can think that head is just for configuration related work. And body open tag, and then I just write here hello world. So here hello world, and then we'll close the body tag. Close the body tag. Okay, that's it. Now this is your basic HTML. This is your basic HTML. So markup, we're putting a markup from here to here. This is a HTML, and here to here there is a head, and here to here there is a body, and here to here there is a body. In that there is some text, hello world, and this will be displayed to the user. This text will be displayed to the user. Okay. So let us execute this code. Let's execute this code and see how it goes. Okay. So for executing this code, if you are using Windows, then you can use Notepad. So then you can use Notepad. If you are using Windows, then you can use Notepad for executing this code. I'll explain you how do we use Notepad and everything. If you are using Windows, then you need to. If you are using Windows, then you can use Notepad. Then you can use Notepad. Right. If you're using Windows, then you can use Notepad. I think most of you might have. If you're using Windows, almost I think you'll get Notepad with you. Next, if you're using Mac, then you can use two things. Either you can use text edit software, or you can use another software called as Sublime Text. Okay, so either you can use text edit or Sublime Text. I recommend you to use Sublime Text. I'll also use Sublime Text because I'm using Mac right now in my computer. My computer is Mac, so I'll be using Sublime Text. If you're using Windows, you can also use Sublime Text. It's your wish. You can also use Sublime Text. If you're using Windows, also you can use Sublime Text. It's your wish. But in Windows, Notepad is sufficient. For Mac, text edit is a little bit difficult to work with the defaults of the text edit. It is a little bit difficult to work for a beginner. So that's why for Mac, I suggest you to use Sublime Text. Okay. If you're using Windows, then Notepad is more than enough. Arvind, I just don't want Notepad. I want to use Sublime Text. I want to work along with you. I want to Sublime Text. Then we can also use Sublime Text. So Sublime Text is a software which you can download it from the internet. So open the Google Chrome and just go here and type Sublime Text download. Okay. So just click on the first link. And there is Windows. Most of you might be using 64-bit, so you can use 64-bit. Using 64-bit, and OS X is for like that MacBook. Y6 is for MacBook. Okay, so most of you might be using 64-bit. So you need to download 64-bit. Most of the computers nowadays are 64-bit, so you can download 64-bit this thing for Windows. For like Mac, just the software DMG file you will get download, and you can just click on it for installation. I think I don't want to explain like how to install. I think most of you might be already knowing how to install. So I'll just show you for anyone who are new. Just you have downloaded the Sublime Text. Just click on the link. If you're using Mac, just click on the link and it will download. If you're using Windows, then most of you might be using 64-bit. So download 64-bit, and then click on Show in Finder, and then double click on the DMG file. Like you have the DMG file, double click on the DMG file. Okay, it will come like this, and then just drag and drop to the applications. Like that, you can just drag and drop to the applications. Okay, just you can drag and drop to the applications. Once you drag and drop to the applications, then you can use Command space and then use Sublime Text. Sir, I have not copied it. So if you are doing it for the first time, then you can just copy that. Then you can open Sublime Text software. So if you're opening for the first time, you'll see blank screen. So I'll just save file. I can just go to file, and then I'll just go to file and then click on create. There is an option to click on new file. So I have already have lot of work pending in my machine, so that's why you're seeing a lot of files in my laptop. But if you're doing it for the first time, then you don't see all these things. You just see a blank screen, and then you can just click on file. Just use new file. New file. Okay, so you'll see like this new file. I'm just closing the existing file. That's why I just got that pop-up. Then you can see the new file like this. Then write your HTML code. So HTML open tag and HTML closing tag. Okay, and right here head open tag, head closing tag. Next, body open tag, hello world, and then body closing tag. Sir, if you're using Windows, I recommend you to stick with Notepad because it is simple to work with. If you're using Mac, then only use Sublime Text. So for Windows also you can use Sublime Text. That's not a big deal. But I would recommend you to use Notepad only because that is simple and like easy to work with. No installations are required. So I just suggest you to use Notepad only. But if you're using Mac, I would suggest you to use Sublime Text. If you are familiar with TextEdit, that is also you can use. Just we need something where we can edit a file, where we can edit a text file. That's it. That is all we need. Now save this file. Okay, I'll save this file here in this location. I'll create a new folder. So just say new folder. So new folder name. So just create the new folder and create a UA batch. Create new folder. So I can say this is career IT. So 02/05/2022. Okay, click on create. I'm just creating a folder, sir. It's your wish. You can create your own folder name. I'm creating with the batch date and time, with batch date, so that it will be easy for me to remember. Click on create. So this is where I created the file, and in this I'll save the file. And one more thing, I'll just give the name of the file as, like I say, demo.html. So always make sure that you have to give the extension demo.html. If you are not giving demo.html, then if you're not giving .html extension, then it will be a problem. Your code will not execute. So always make sure that you are giving .html extension to your file. If you're not giving .html extension, then it is difficult. Then your code will not executed by the browser. It will not be executed by your browser. Okay. Now click on save. Now click on save. Okay. So like this, the code looks like. Now HTML, head open tag closing tag, and then body open tag closing tag. Okay. Inside the body, we have written hello world. Okay. So now we have the file readily available. Now we have the file readily available. Now we have the file readily available. Now we need to execute the code. Now we need to execute the code. Now we need to execute the code. Means we have the HTML code readily available. Then we need to execute the code. Now go to the place where you have saved the file. Go to the place where you have saved the file. So go to documents. So I'll go to career IT. I'll go to career IT UA batch. Okay, in this I'll go to the folder where it is 05. So this is the folder. So I just open this, and then there is a file demo.html. Right click on the file, open with Google Chrome. Sir, most of you should have Google Chrome installed in your laptop. If you don't know how to install, ask your wife or ask your husband or ask your friends and get the Google Chrome installed. If you don't have Google Chrome installed, then it is very, very difficult for you to walk ahead in this course content. You can use Safari, or you can use Internet Explorer. That's not an issue, but make sure that you install Google Chrome. Make sure that you install Google Chrome. Google Chrome is very well necessary for every other walk in this course content. I'll always explain you in Google Chrome. If you don't have Google Chrome browser readily installed in your computer, then get it installed by tomorrow. If you don't do it, then it will be very difficult for you to work with. Now right click, open with Google Chrome. So now you can see. Now if you enter google.com, then in the URL bar you will see google.com. So let's say here it is google.com, then it will see google.com. But if you see here, it is the path of the file /users/aravind/documents/career-batch/career-IT 02/05/2022 demo.html. Means rather than going to the server and then get the file, right now it is going. I'll just rerun it again. I lost it. So right click, open with Google Chrome. Okay. So earlier, rather than going to google.com, now it will go to this user/aravind/documents/career-IT batch and demo.html. Means your browser will render the file from your local only. Now it is not going to any server and then getting the file. If this file is sitting in the server, then you will see some URL over here, and you will get the file from the server location. So but here the file is present in local only. From there only it is just executing the code. But if you are using like real-time projects, automatically you will deploy or you will move those files to a remote location, and from there you will access these files in the browser. But right now we are doing it from local only. So that's why you see the folder path. You see here it is file URL. So you see the path here. Okay. And now you can see hello world. Hello world means like so from the, what is the code we have written here. That code is coming. Okay, that is the code we have written here. Hello world. That will be coming over here. Okay. So any questions until this point to anyone? Anyone able to execute this code, sir? Anyone facing any issues in execution? Anyone started the executing of the code, or anyone facing any issues in executing the code? Okay, executed. Okay, one guy executed. Anyone else executed the code? Anyone facing any issues? Anyone facing any issues in installation of Sublime Text? Executed. Okay. So anyone install Sublime Text or just doing it from Notepad? Anyone is using Mac, sir? Please please put in the chat that you're using Mac. Then in that case, you have to install Sublime Text. If you need any special attention, let me know. We'll just sit and install it together, the Sublime Text part. If you are like little bit new in using the computer or something like that, then we can sit and install the Sublime Text. Okay. Just you need to inform me, then I'll spend some more time with you. Okay. Okay, I hope like there is. Okay, TK, nice, good. So please execute the program and come back to the class tomorrow. Like if you want to spend some time and learning DNS and then what is server and everything, just figure out the details at your home. Just do a Google search and then like just figure out the details about app server, web server, and then what is DNS. So this is like if you're from computer science background, then I think in 3.1 or 3.2, I think there is a subject called as computer networks. Nowadays, like people who work on this, that fellows are called as network engineers. That fellows will know more about this, but for now, like for us, it is not that much. It's not that much required for us. But yeah, if you want to spend some more details and then learn more about it, then Google out for what is DNS and how does that work, and then what is computer, what is application server, and what is a server. Just work on that. Figure out the details a little bit more. Okay, if you have some free time. Okay. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye. You can leave for the day, sir. If you have any questions, you can stay back, and then like if you're a little bit shy to ask in front of others, then you can stay back and they can ask the questions. Otherwise, you can leave for the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.